Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to this week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we are so excited to be here talking ice with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we always start with is kind of like our fishing report, give you guys some time to tune in. And
Yep.
kind of I guess give you, kind of where we're at. So well, are we northeast Wisconsin? Well, either
Yeah,
way,
we're
we've been
northeast
fishing
Wisconsin.
we've been fishing the backwaters of the Wolf River. So if you
Mhm.
know where that's at, that's kind of what we're referring to here. But fishing for us, at least we went out Sunday, and it was rough.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to catch up on too because we missed you guys last week with all the traveling and stuff. So hopefully all of you had a wonderful Christmas. Hey, Spud. So yeah, the last couple weekends we've been on the Wolf River. We went and tried a new spot the weekend prior. And then last weekend on our way home from Illinois, we went back to one of our old trusty spots along the highway, and yeah, it was a little bit of a grind. We met a new friend out there though. So Ryan, if you're watching, thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed those cookies. But yeah, he was using waxworms. We were using plastics, and I got a couple of fish to hit a couple of different things. But it wasn't very consistent. Someone got skunked along with Ryan. So I mean, it was just really it was super tough. So yeah, we hopped all over the place but it was still good to get out on the water.
Absolutely, that is true. One of the things that we did notice, though, is some of the shorelines were still, a little bit cracky getting on. And, even though some of that main ice was a little bit thicker, there were spots where it wasn't as thick as you
Mhm.
would think as it would be, going into January. So, a lot of times people get to a certain point in the season and they, leave behind the spud bar or whatever, start packing all their gear really heavy. And although I have to say I'm throwing most things in my sled at this point, I always make sure to have my spud bar with me.
Spud bar, spikes, cleats, all that good stuff. If you have a float suit, keep it on. All that. Make sure you bring a throwable. We don't hear that enough. Just make sure you have some kind of seat or one of those throwable bags, something that's attached to a rope in case someone or yourself goes through and then somebody on the ice can help that person in need. Um, yeah, just be safe. It's still sketchy out there in some spots. Some spots, I'm hearing, 14 inches of ice in some spots. Some spots, we came across 3. So it's always sketchy, that ice.
Well, and always a great time of the year to be talking about this because, during the holidays, there's a lot of people with time off and a lot of people that are going and hopping on the ice. And sometimes those people, don't get out as much in the year. And this is the time they're doing it. So if you are out there and you are seeing people, I don't know, maybe they're fishing a crazy way or something, go introduce yourself, go say hi, go see what's up because you never know, you might learn something or you might help somebody else learn something. So, fun time of the year to be out there.
Yeah, and let us know where you're at in the country and how you're doing fishing in the comments. We're sitting here reading them. Anthony, good evening. Jonathan, good evening. Thank you for watching. So,
Well, and
uh,
if you have ice, let us know kind of your report because
yeah,
the other thing that is happening right now is there is kind of a deep freeze across a lot of the country. I guess there's a lot of people that are getting snow right now, so let us know that as well because that always affects the ice. But if you have ice that's forming, let us know kind of what's out there because people love to track that across the ice belt.
mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah,
The other thing is, if you have questions or comments or things along the way, make sure to put that into our comments section because otherwise, we have a fabulous guest here that we cannot wait to talk fishing with. So let's bring him into the show. Jeremy, thanks for being here.
hey, bud.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Awesome. Always great to see you. We kind of got to do that a little bit during show season, but always great to be able to catch up.
Heck yeah, that's for sure.
So in case there is anybody who doesn't know you yet, can you tell us maybe a little bit about your location and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, in Hutchinson, Minnesota, kind of central Minnesota, just south of St. Cloud or straight west of the cities by 60 miles either way. So, machinist, been a machinist for 26 years now. So, kind of been kind of been some time there, but still love doing what I'm doing, so that's kind of nice. Just been out fishing a lot the last couple of days, so got what they call boat butt right now because my sitting on that seat for so long, but we'll take it. We're getting back on the ice, so that's kind of nice.
That is really great. We have a few people checking in, and lots of ice varying kind of across. Well, I see a lot of people checking in from Wisconsin. So kind of nice to hear about, some Minnesota, because actually that's where we're going to be going this weekend. And so that kind of applies to us too.
Yep.
Look at you like I'm giving up a secret. That's funny.
Yeah, I know
so I did hear
that before the show about ice around here. We're varying, just like Josh said, up to 14 inches, on some lakes, and then there's other lakes that we're on. Most lakes got 8 to 9 around here, so we're pretty fortunate right now. But we're getting hit with snow as well as half of the upper Midwest right now. So
that is for sure. Snow is definitely something that affects the ice. And, I think we all kind of cringe when we hear that snow coming. But the deep freeze is coming with it too. So I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the deep freeze. Let's get the freeze going.
Yeah.
Start getting some ice so we can drive out to some of these spots instead of walking 2 miles to get to some of them. So
that's actually a really good point. We are on foot most of the time.
Yep.
We got a snowmobile that's kind of new to us, that we're going to try to get out this year. But that is a funny point. This year this part of the season, sometimes you only fish where you can walk to.
Yeah. Around here we've got a lot of walkable ice, but I mean most of the stuff is pretty easy to get to. But there's a few lakes that's just like, I'd like to get way out there, but I'm not going to make a 2-mile trek and hauling all sorts of gear. You try to pack. You just talked about it, packing light for trying to get out on thin ice. Well, now we're trying to pack light so we can walk out on heavier ice and trek through 5-6 inches of snow also. So I'm trying to stay as light as possible also. So
it's actually really funny that you bring that up because we have been, I guess, focusing a little bit different on what we're bringing out on the ice. And, we switched to a whole hopper bucket, which is something that a little bit more of the tournament fishers tend to do.
Yep.
But I have always been kind of an overpacker in the past. And, it's been kind of nice actually going out so light this year. So, but I agree, especially when you take those long walks, it's a huge improvement to not be dragging a ton of weight.
Yep.
Yeah, the caveat to that, though, Emily, is that days like Sunday when we were out there, I was really missing my tackle box. When we only have like one little jig box and whatever fits in a bucket, it's hard to.
Yep.
Oh, I wish I had this that's sitting at home right now.
Well, that's why you need one of these, Josh. You need the Widowmaker box.
Oh, that's true. I do need a suitcase.
That has been one of the nicest things because on one side, on this one I don't have it set up that way, but on my one that I have out in my truck right now, I've got it set up where I've got some of my spoons on the one side, and then I've got my tungstens on the other. So I kind of always ready to go for whatever whatever just so happens to be out there. I mean, there's times that I'm changing. Like, okay, we got to switch gears. We're going from walleyes to panfish because that's the only thing that wants to bite right now. So, you can switch them gears real quick and have that in your striker bag or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
That is a really great point because you can fit a whole ton in those. But for people at home who maybe have not seen those yet, can you give us a little bit more than the tease that you showed us? I mean, those are awesome cases.
So that's just the tungsten side. I don't have anything on the spoon side, but in here there's like 150 jigs right now, something like that. So there's a pile of jigs in there. And nice part about it, you saw the foam up here on the top, and you can actually kind of see the little indents from that. So that's what's actually keeping my jigs from bouncing around too. So if you got it set up on the other side with your spoon, so it's 2-sided. You can kind of see the black split there. So it's just two-sided. But I put my spoons in on that side, and then they're not rattling around. They're not banging into each other. I mean, you can have a pretty efficient little unit for, you know, it looks like it's a lot, but I mean, if you filled it all with tungsten, it'd probably weigh about 30 pounds. I'll stick with, you know, what I have in there right now and a few other spoons, and it does make it nice for trekking out. And if I wanted to, I could bring out, I've got a rod holder in my sled. So I'll just put them in the rod holders and they'll be sticking straight up, and then put that in there, and I can pretty much go anywhere then, you know, and then I got my Razor Scout that I use all the time. Talk about light and easy and portable. You pretty much got everything you need with that, you know, so.
So the cool thing about hearing you say all these things is I feel like you are like fresh off of show season, because you are hitting on some of my favorite things that we saw at the shows.
Well,
Because
it is, but I'm a couple weeks out, but not much. So still in show mode.
no, but I mean, I think that this is awesome because there are some people out there that don't get to go and see some of these awesome products. So, you know, Widowmaker is something that we all hear about quite a bit on some of those different social media pages and stuff, but I'm not sure how often I've heard of that awesome case yet. And again, that's something that we got to bump into at the show. So I love seeing you bring that up because you can fit so much in that. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah, well, even their little that new little jig box that they have with the silicone insert in there this year, that thing is going to be a great, if you're a hole hopper guy that you have the tendency, I mean, I know you guys fish a bunch of that water that's you know, where you got a lot of northerns in there, so I call them the bait robbers, and there's a ton of them in there. You know, if you got a ton of northerns around, it's nice having just that little jig box. And it's probably 3 inches probably 4 inches by 3 inches. It is a great little unit to have because you can fill that thing with probably 50 tungstens. And you can go out, I mean, whatever your favorite colors are. But
you're going to be amazed when you see this.
I was going to say, he must have it. There it is. That's the one.
Yup. Sorry about the light. We're trying not to reflect it, but it's silicone, and it
I haven't run into a jig box that keeps your jigs in there as tight as that, and it's surprising. And it's just a small little package. I love that. I love that little jig box. But it's another one that you could throw a few spoons in or whatever. You could have a couple sides of spoons, and you know, however you want to set them up, I guess. You know, there's so many different ways you can set them things up, but I do love that thing. That's a nice little unit to have for, like, I do a lot of hole hopping where there is a lot of northerns in some, like you guys walk on right off the road type lakes, and you go in there knowing that you're probably going to lose at least 10 to 15 tungstens that day.
Well, and with that being said, that's kind of, you know, also you had mentioned, you know, different products to begin with, the Razor Scout, and then you mentioned hole hopping. So I think that this is something that people are starting to hear a whole lot more about. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Just bouncing around, drilling a million holes in my case. So that's where I run the Razor Scout in a 6-inch. I have the 7-inch for kind of, I'm going to use that later season for a couple lakes that I have out in western Minnesota, even further out than I am, that you got some big crappies in it. So it's just like, I know you can get a lot of fish up the hole on a 6-inch hole, but it's when you start talking 15-inch crappies and stuff like that, you're like, okay, now I need a little bit bigger. So you just want to have that 7. That's what I like about the 7-inch, but I've also got the 8-inch 40 volt also. So I mean, I've got the 6, 7, and 8, but my auger preference is the 6-inch for hole hopping, because you can pound a bunch of holes in and then just start trying to find them. You know, if you know the area, you know, you guys have mentioned before on some of the stuff that you do, a lot of guys like to throw tip ups, and then you're out there bouncing around drilling holes in between them. And you know, you got to try to follow the school, stay on the school, you know, if you're going to keep on catching fish. So That's the nice part about having that Razor Scout and running around, and you can be nice and light, but yet still pound a bunch of holes so that you can go out and hop through them. So
Jeff is checking in and saying that he drills a lot less holes now that he has live scope. And that's really awesome. And unfortunately, not all of us are that lucky.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
yeah, I do have it, but I don't have mine set up yet. So.
But the other thing that I know about the Razor is with those curved blades, it is a fast, smooth shave, but along with that, it is quiet. And so, you're talking about pan fishing sometimes, drilling holes in different places, or, Jeff, if you're drilling holes right on or right near fish, you're going to want something that you can pop that hole and not scare those fish away. So I love that curved blade system on that Razor, because that allows me to, like I'm saying, pop that hole and not have to wait for those fish to come back. I can kind of fish it right away.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were out on the lake in the cities on Sunday, and the guys right next to us had Panoptix, and the fish they were running, I can't remember if it was a cage drill or something like that, but they were saying, oh my God, these fish they're already drill shy. And I'm like, well, we're in 15 feet of water and we're only on 6 inches of ice. So yeah, I kind of get it. And the fish were all suspended too. So like as soon as you started drilling, boom, they were gone. But like I didn't see a problem with us. We were bouncing around all over, and I mean you could find the fish, and they stayed by us. And the guy even said, he's like, man, because you haven't really scared many fish. And I'm like, I don't know if it's just the Scout or if it's what, but I do agree. It does cut, probably the quietest that I've ever had an auger cut,
Yeah. It's just because you're tiptoeing around in your boots really quiet.
Yeah. Look like twinkle toes.
No, this time of the year, I always find that I need my spikes on my boots. Otherwise, it's too slippery.
Yeah. Well, it was last weekend, there was a couple guys that didn't have, you talked about it earlier, having cleats on, or ice cleats or spikes or whatever. I'm like, I don't know how you can't own a pair in Minnesota or Wisconsin for that matter, as like this year, especially the first part of the ice was just glare ice. And it was like trying to walk on glass, And I was like, man, somebody's going to end up falling. And we were just got out of our houses. We were packing it up for the night, and there's a bunch of guys coming out and came off of a little bit of snowpack. And I watched 3 of them just whoop, boom, right on there. I was like, guys should have spikes on.
Oh my gosh. So as you're hitting the ice, you've mentioned kind of panfish and walleye. What is it that you go out and target first?
I don't know. It depends. It depends on what's around. Normally, I'm a big pan fisherman. I'm like 90% of the time that's what I'm chasing. But if there's walleyes to be had and they're in an area, I'll try for them, and to do that first at least, and give them the effort. And then after that, if they're not going, panfish, here we come. But usually, I would say generally it's panfish that I chase.
So, I'm just kind of getting into a little bit more walleye ice fishing than I have in the past. So, one of the things that I find is I get really stuck in my tackle decisions, and I'm like panfish focused. So when you go out and you're fishing for walleye, what's one of the first things that you reach for?
Probably, right now, the new Northland coffin spoon that they came out with, they kind of made the best of both worlds with that, with where they had I think it was their macho minnow before, and then their buckshot that they had. Buckshot's probably bar none my best. Like that's what I've always done the best on for walleyes is, your natural colors, like your glow, or a glow of some sort, but usually like a gold, like a perch kind of color, like a hologram face on it. That's what I've always done really good with. But that new coffin spoon that's been producing, so can't complain about that so far.
Well, and then the coffin spoon has like kind of a cool tail on it, doesn't it? Like
yeah, just like the macho minnow. That's where that design came from, and then it's now the coffin shape, but then it's got the normal buckshot rattle in the back of it. So it's just like the buckshot rattle spoons now in a coffin shape with the macho, basically the macho minnow tail to it.
So are you using that as is, or you're putting bait on it?
I'm putting bait on it. Usually I'm running a minnow head on there, but there's been times where you downsize some of the stuff too, and you throw some spikes on it or throw some waxies on it. That's something that I don't think a lot of guys do, is down. Like sometimes they think that walleyes are, you just got to have these huge baits and all this stuff. And I think if you downsize, you're going to catch a lot more fish, you know, whether you go to a crappie minnow or you go to spikes and a waxworm on there. I mean, they'll hit it. If they're hungry enough, they'll hit it, you know.
Well, and those are some good tips. I was just catching up on my Clayton Schick Outdoors, one of our team members. I was just catching up on him, and he brought up a tip that I would have never thought of. One of his things is that he likes to start out with no bait, and instead of jigging walleyes up, he drops his bait into the dirt.
Yeah,
and so he'll put the spoon into the dirt and then just wiggle it around and try and create a dust cloud. And if those walleyes are active, they'll hit it just off of instinct because they know there's something that looks like a minnow, and they'll just eat it without having to inspect it. But then, like you said, when you bring it up, it's better to have some bait on it because that's when they're being a little bit more picky. They're having some time to look at it, and then that bait really just seals the deal.
Yeah, definitely. He does. I love Clayton. Clayton's a good guy, and I mean, his big thing all the time. I mean, he does pound the bottom. He is a bottom pounder to no end, but he catches a lot of big fish doing that, and it works. I mean, it same holds true with perch though too. You can get into that situation where the perch are there, but they're kind of not aggressive, but you going down and pound that bottom, and they just get like pissed off. They just like, okay, now I got to see what's there, and I'm going to eat it. I don't care what it is. I'm going to eat it, you know? And I've done that a lot out, especially we go out to Big Stone by Ortonville right on the edge of South Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. And man, I mean, like if they're there and you can't get them to go, just go down and pound the bottom a little bit and then start bringing it up, and they just come in and smoke it.
That's really interesting. I love that theory of, that fish will, be interested in something that they can see, but with that dust around it, they can't like see it entirely. So kind of a cool thing to, I guess, get them to move around and be a little bit defensive and get that bite.
Yep.
Huh. That's something that I'm definitely going to try this winter. I know a lot of times on the Fox River, sometimes, it takes a good deep freeze for us to be able to really get out there in some of those spots. But I know a lot of times they suggest just kind of like a jig and a minnow. And I always just kind of in my mind, for some reason, reserve that for summer fishing. But that really, really isn't. So as long as you have the right kind of setup, balance it with the rod that you're using, man, these are some, I think we're going to target some walleyes this winter.
Yeah. I got a couple lakes picked out for some camping.
Yep. Another good one is the Northland eyeball jig. That's what I've had on all my snare rods this year. I started using it last year when they first came out, and I'm like, okay, well, see how these are, and I have not stopped using them on a dead stick. Like they're just been so good, and like 99% of the time that I catch a fish, that's what it's on, is on that now. I'm almost to the point where I'm going to start like putting away some of my other stuff that I know kind of works for other lakes. I haven't found a lake that it hasn't worked on yet.
I like all the different sizes and colors that those eyes come in. That's a great display at, know, I guess I was going to say the shows and expos because that's where I run into them. But, any of your local retailers will have that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I know, well, around here, Runnings, Shields, Mills Fleet, like all the local bait shops around here, just the small mom and pop shops, everybody's carrying them just because they've been such a hot bait. And we were actually kind of talking about it on the Striker page. If you look at like Donnie Obert and Chris Gronrud, which through Rainy Days Guide Service to follow him at all. Those guys that's all they've been using on their dead sticks is them eyeball jigs. So
that's actually interesting.
They're finding the success with it like everybody else, I think.
Oh my gosh. So I guess with all of that, we're going to shift gears a little bit, check in with some of the comments. When we were talking about live scope, Jeff was agreeing about drilling quiet holes. We have people checking in from all over the place. So thanks to everyone. A great shout out to Happy New Year's. So, everyone who's watching, we were talking about Christmas and all that, but Happy New Year's to everybody who's out there. And if you guys do have other questions or comments or anything along the way, put that in because we'll still be here talking fishing for a little while. But, the other thing that you said that you fish for is panfish. And I kind of do think it's funny because you were talking about, when the walleyes don't bite, and that's when I'll switch, like as if panfish were always easy.
Well, I can usually get there because I've got a million hours on panfish, so like walleye still even kind of new to me. I mean, I can still go out and catch them when they're active, let's say, but I can't pick them up when they're finicky. So then that's when I switch gears. And okay, if there's a finicky panfish, I pretty much have like 3 go-to baits, and we're just gonna go to them.
Okay, wait. So that sounds magic. What are your 3 go-to baits?
Oh, like I love, well, actually some of the Widowmaker. I use the clown style, so the chartreuse and orange is like my main go-to. And then I'm trying to play with more and more plastic so I don't have to have live bait. But when you get into a finicky bite, I think live bait just shines when it goes to that. One of my other baits is I've got a PK Lures spoon, and it's just, it can't be but maybe 3/8 of an inch long, so it's a real tiny spoon. Throw a couple spikes on that, and man, those things have been absolute money. And probably my third most used is, again, I go back to that eyeball jig. Like, it's just throw that, I can put spikes on that thing, I can do whatever, and it just seems like fish hit them. They're hungry for them. So that's probably been my 3 go-tos for what I do 90% of the time around here. So
that is actually pretty excellent because that's a pretty diverse, group of baits there, I guess. So whatever fish are biting on, that's actually, I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so like I said, for me, that works on most lakes that I'm on. So, I fish border to border. I don't go every direction. I'm pretty much go there, but that's kind of been a pretty standard set of 3 baits that I use. If they're active, they'll hit the spoons or the eyeball jigs. If they're not active, throw that eyeball jig on a dead stick. And last year we ran into it. After we did the show last year, we went out to Big Stone, and the only thing that was working was the snare rod with the eyeball jigs. We couldn't. My buddy had another one on, and he was kind of catching us some with that. Then he switched to an eyeball jig, and man, we started massacring perch, but we couldn't catch them jigging. You had to have them just a minnow and that eyeball jig, and that's what we had them on. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of patience sometimes to be able to figure out a finicky bite, and sometimes an array of bait. But we're as fishermen, we can handle it.
Right.
Ray is checking in. He said he's listening while plowing snow. So good afternoon or good evening to you, I guess. A lot of people are getting all kinds of weather this evening. That stinks.
Buddy Jim's back.
Jim, I didn't know you left, so I'm glad that you're back. Michael checking in with another auger question. He's here talking about the K drill. Do you think that this type of mobile auger, so you had talked about the Scout, the Razor Scout, do you think that these will take over regular power augers?
Oh, will it take over regular power augers? I don't think so, just because there's too many guys with wheelhouses. That's the big thing. I don't think it'll ever take over going to, like, let's say Manitoba, where you're drilling through 50 some inches of ice. You're never going to get a K drill to to bust through that, or a Scout. I mean, like the Scouts are nice because they've got, you know, all metal fluting, everything like that, but you're kind of limited in your ice thickness. So that's where I think you actually go into a gas power auger is still gonna shine is on when you start getting into deep ice. But for most of Minnesota, yeah, I would say, yeah, they're taking over. That's for sure. You know, I mean, I'm part of that nation too. So I'm out there where 3 years ago, I'm like, what do you need to drill in an auger for? That just seems kind of a stupid idea. And now here I sit with 3 of them. So,
well, and I think I'll add to that. You know, I don't think gas is ever going to be irrelevant, like you said, especially way up north. I do think that electric, though, you get almost more bang for your buck when it comes to efficiency of energy into ice drilled. And I think that it lends itself to those like the shaver type blades a lot better, just because it is such a smooth torque of power. And electric augers and drill augers are 2 separate things. So the electric augers would be what you would call your direct gas replacement. And those are going to be what you use in those wheelhouses in the lower 48, right? In most of the lower 48 for most of the year. And then, you know, honestly, I don't know why you would drag anything else around except a drill and like your Scout, your light flight, your pistol bit, your K drill. That, you know, for the majority of your season, I really do think that's just going to be the way that it goes. It's trending that way, not so much for power, but it can do the same amount of work, but it's lighter and it takes up less room, so you can put more of other stuff. You know.
And to add to that, even for most people, you know, I go to an extreme. I go out on Big Stone. That's when I'm bringing my 40 volt out because I can drill, you know, it feels like I'm drilling 1,000,000 inches of ice out there. Which, I mean, really, when you look at the end of the day, I drill between 100 to 200 holes when I'm out there trying to find. If I can't find them, that's what I'm drilling, you know, because you got to kind of grid out an area that you've got GPS spots on. You know, it's perfect for that. But like you said, for most people, when we're hole hopping and just kind of bouncing around, and we've got a particular lake or river or stream or whatever that we're on, and we know the area, we're only going to drill 15 to 20 holes. That's where the drill augers have been. They've just been a huge light on everybody. You know, I mean, it just like really brought a lot of light onto the subject just because they're so light and you can pack them in so easy. You know, I mean, especially if you're a river guy or whatever, where you got to kind of walk down a trail, we'll throw that on your back, a couple of rods in your one hand and a pail, and off you go. You know, you don't have to have all that. Morgan, my dog's over here being crazy. So, but yeah. So, like, I mean, that's I think where it's been a big where they have taken over. I don't think. I mean, in a general sense, are they going to take over? Probably never, but for what most people are using them for now, yeah, I would say they're definitely taking over.
Well, and the other thing I would say about that is I think it's about using the tool for the situation. So there's a lot of people who, you know, you hear the word weekend warrior like it's a bad thing, you know, but that just, you know, a lot of us have jobs, you know, a lot of us, that's when we fish is the weekend. And I have that opportunity then to like go home and charge up my drill every single night. And then for that factor of being so portable, that is a really great tool to use for that day. But I do have to say there's other days when we're going to go pack and, you know, stay over on the ice. And I know with that 40 volt razor that I can have that, use it Friday, use it Saturday, use it Sunday. And I literally do not have to charge that battery all weekend and can still be drilling holes. So, you know, I think it's about people maybe using the right tool for the application of what they're doing.
Yeah, I'd agree for sure.
One more thing I just want to put in there, something that I found super useful with the advent of all these drill augers, is that a company out of Wisconsin called Deep deep freeze fishing.
Yep.
They have a auger attachment system that is like a quick disconnect system. As far to my knowledge, they're the only ones that have that right now, and they have it for almost, if not all, of the makes and models available on the market. So it's an adapter that goes into your drill or your drill extension, and then there's an adapter. There's a pull adapter that chucks into your drill that you never have to take out, and then you just slide this. You pop it in, and then when you want to take the auger off, you pull the sleeve up and pull your auger out.
Okay.
And then you don't have to chuck and unchuck it all the time.
Yeah, almost like an air fitting in a way.
Yeah, it's very similar to an air fitting, and it's like the best $60 that I've ever spent on ice fishing stuff, besides the Vexlar.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there. That brings it like that packability to a whole new level. When you don't have the L shape, you can take it apart, and then you can pack the drill in the back, and then the auger along the side of the sled. It just makes everything fit so much nicer.
A lot of guys I see now are starting to, or what I'm seeing is they're building brackets off of the side, and then they're just laying it up. So then they still have their full tub to put everything into. And I've actually kind of been looking at doing that myself, because I was like, well, it's just easier to put it there, and then I can have everything, or I can pack my pail and, throw it in my little sled, and off I go.
Yeah.
That's actually a really fabulous point, though, that some people really, a lot of people go and they put the high facts on the bottom and, extend the life of your sled or whatever. But there's so much other cool customization that I've started to see on those sleds. Like you're saying, auger racks or for a spud bar, or different things like that. And man, that is actually really cool. Maybe that's something that we got to start thinking about for this winter. Josh
we got to start thinking about for this.
Josh is a project person. He loves it. He loves it.
Josh, we need to, meaning Josh needs to start engineering.
We'll see.
We got fishing to do. That's summer work.
Yeah, that's the off-season work.
Yeah. Todd is asking another question here. What do you think of the Vexlar 30? Vexlar 30, I'm still on the Vexlar 20.
I'm a Markham guy, so I'm out on that one.
No, I'm sure from what I hear, it has some good settings on it that you can tweak there's power adjustments and stuff for water depth, and there it has some different split screen stuff. So I mean, flashers are awesome. You can't, that's one, like Panoptix is great until it's not. Like Vexlar, you can use it, flashers, you can use it all over the water column for almost, people have been using it for years. It works. It's proven itself. Panoptix is really good at some things, and people are going to find out, and that technology is going to get more and more refined. But I don't know if it's a flasher, I bet there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Well, I've like I said, I've run the Panoptix before too, and I've got one now that I'm going to be taking off my boat and putting it into the ice pack. But you start lugging around that thing, and I mean, it's not a light unit. It's not a whole hopping unit to have, and that's where any of your flashers, like you said, the flashers are always, you kind of find them and then you go chase them with your flasher, because you get a better pickup. And especially when you're targeting, or you're starting to target a finicky bite, to where you can see those little movements as that fish is coming up, you can pick that up. Where if you got something that's got a little bit of leg, which most, the live scope or the live target, any of them have a little bit of a leg to them. So you can, maybe you see a fish coming up, but you're watching the end of your rod, and your rod you didn't see anything. Well, the fish had already bit and brought it back up, or you don't notice the line's a little bit slack now because it's an up bite, or stuff like that. That's where that technology is still gotta pick up a little bit more. But still, who's gonna lug around 12-15 pounds of a shuttle, the unit, the black box for the live scope and all that stuff. There's some weight there, and that's why I always, like you said, I'm still going to be a flasher guy when it comes down to it. But a search tool, they're great for that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jim is saying 20 to 25 pounds for the Panoptix. That is a whole lot of weight to be hopping around.
That's a whole auger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only though, now you're holding it straight out like this too at that same time. So it's like, you try to put it in a hole, you do that repetitive. I mean, you're the next world's strongest man if you can do that all day.
Not to change subjects here, but important question. Matt Bain is asking, who's your favorite show roommate?
Well, of course it's him, but then he had to ditch us this year. No, he had good reason. I love Matt. Matt's an awesome guy. He had family that he was trying to protect, so that's why he didn't come to the show season like he normally has. So, and I totally get it, and just wish he was still here when we had show. And by the way, Matt, sushi was awesome. That's our Fargo thing. Every year we go to hit the sushi joint up after we're done with the show, and yeah, it didn't disappoint.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, it is getting near the end of the show, but I do have to say I'm still interested in at least one more question here. I cannot remember how you answered this question last time, but there's new options out since then. So what suit are you running this winter?
The plethora of suits this year. I'm running the climate jacket as of right now, and the Apex bibs. Once I get my Apex jacket in, actually I got one, but I don't know if the size is off on it or if I misordered a size, but it's like the Tommy Boy scenario, fat guy. So, but no, I'm excited once that jacket rolls in. I'll be excited to kind of just go out and use it. I'm hoping I can get it in before it gets really, really cold out. But as of right now, those Apex bibs are legit. I love them things. Those things are awesome. So that's kind of been my combo for so far this year. But like I said, once that jacket comes in, I mean, I still love the versatility of the climate jacket. That's the, I don't know. It's just been a good one to have, just because once you take that liner out, you have the Predator jacket. Yeah. Or I can just use 75 grams with just the liner. So it's got all that. Got all the features that you really want, and for some of them, I mean, they were offering it at the same prices as the new Predator jacket. So for the same price, I can get more versatility and an extra jacket, and why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, as somebody who has tried out the Apex bibs, one of the things that we're hearing, it does have that Primaloft gold insulation in it. And so I think that there are some people who are super interested in being warm, but then there's other people who are worried about overheating. So how have you felt about that heat control so far?
Actually, it's surprise. Well, when I got it, it was prior to show season. Yeah, I had it just prior to show season. I got the bib, so I was like running around outside and I had them on, and it was like 30 degrees out. I had them zipped all the way down on the sides, and I was like, okay, these are too hot. You can't run around at this point. But like yesterday, on Sunday, we went out and it was just a cold, damp wind because all that storm system was rolling in. And I had them zipped all the way up, and I was actually really comfortable. But once I got into the house, I was actually zipping stuff down because they were just too warm to have in the house. But I think, once it gets to be a later part of the season, or for somebody that gets cold easy, I think they're going to be a great bib for somebody that gets cold easy. But I mean, for me, yes and no. Like come spring, I'm not going to be wearing that bib because it's going to be too hot for me.
Yeah.
But the focus is supposed to be the mobility. So can you touch on that as well?
I would say this is probably bar none the most mobile bib that I've been in. I mean, I love my hard waters. I've loved my predators. I've loved my climates, but these are like, as far as the mobility side, they've stepped it up in that game. I mean, it's definitely, you don't really like, I don't notice it even that they're on, like they're that comfortable. They wear that good that they don't feel bulky. I mean, it just feels like you're wearing an extra pair of pants is all it really feels like.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome, actually. Well, it just does make me think about, all the different options of suits that are out there. And actually, I got an email from Striker just today about there being clearance outerwear. So if there are people here who are listening to the show and maybe Santa didn't bring them exactly what they were hoping for, maybe they're still thinking of extra things, or you just want to celebrate New Year's or whatever, there is a whole bunch of, it looks like it's saying the classic Predator. So if you're looking for the new veil strike pattern, I don't think that's what they're referring to. No. But some of the great classic Predator bibs are on sale for $199 a piece. That's actually a great deal. But Adrenaline Rain bibs, I know, again, not quite the right season, but also on sale for $199 a piece. That's a fabulous deal. So great to get ready for, I guess, next open water season, but also some sweatshirts and all of that are going on clearance. And I know that you can't see my phone because that's just how it works. But some really great deals going on that website right now. So if you are interested in, you're talking about the Apex bibs or something else, definitely go and check that out, strikerbrands.com.
Or check out some of the new, this pattern, the transition pattern this year has been the hottest, and I think you guys know this probably the most, is that this shirt, if I could have had 300 of them at show, I could have probably sold all 300 of them. Like, yeah. That's been a hot shirt to have this year. I love those two shirts. They're great. I mean, especially when now we're starting to get to that time where it's starting to get cold, and I don't like to have big bulky layers on. That's the way to go, and have, so you got enough comfort there, but you don't have big bulky layers on. That's what I like about them.
Absolutely. But there are tons of great options. So whatever it is you're looking for, it's all on the website. So Jeremy, for people who are interested in keeping up with you and your ice season, is there a way that people can follow you on social media?
On Snapchat, not Snapchat, on Instagram, I'm Finn Fishy on there, and then just Jeremy Anfinson on Facebook. Otherwise, hopefully be out. I got my buddy, he's got the Team Extreme side of things. He's got a Team Extreme Outdoors. You'll see me on there because we've been fishing and hunting together the last couple of years. So yeah, you'll probably see me on there too. So
awesome. Well, we're looking forward to that, or I guess looking forward to seeing you hopefully on the ice. And thanks for being on the show with us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And to everybody at home, thank you guys for being here as well. Because it's always a lot of fun to, talk fishing and, hear all of your questions and comments and input and all that kind of stuff. So, I guess with that, we're looking forward to next week's episode of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.